So if you remember recently I told you we'd gone to see family and they told us about a really cheap place to get some flowers. So in this week's video I'm showing you how we titivated our garden front and back with some hanging baskets. So if you want to see how I did them, keep on watching. So we actually bought these hanging baskets ready-made for £8.99 each. So if you do live in the Doncaster, Conisbrough area, I know only a small percentage of you probably will, but I'll leave a link to that place below. This is not sponsored, and it's called Waite's Cash and Carry. And we also bought loads of other flowers, so I've got a few other flowery projects coming up soon. And we also got the brackets from there as well at £1.99 each. And I also wanted to fix them with some stainless steel screws, M5 40mm, and the cheapest I could get these were about £7 from Toolstation, because I didn't want them to go rusty over time. So the first thing I did was pop one of the screws through the holes and held a masonry drill bit right next to it. That way I could put some brown tape around it, so each time I drilled through a brick wall I knew exactly where to stop. And because I was going to be drilling a hole first, I made sure it was on the hammer drill setting. And this was the first hanging basket I was going to start on, and I decided to match both my neighbours and have one either side of my front window. Now this job is probably easier to have two pairs of eyes, because this is where I had to get up on my step ladder and just hold both pieces in the air to gauge where exactly I wanted it to start and finish, and whether I wanted the bracket upside down or not. And once I'd got an idea, I roughly marked with a pencil over where I wanted the hanging point to be. But before I started drilling any holes, it was time to wear some protection. Whoa-hee-hee! Apparently, you should wear goggles every time you drill into masonry. So then I held the bracket roughly in line with that pencil marking I did and get an idea of how high I wanted it and started drilling my first hole. Now you might be wondering what size drill bit am I using. Here I'm using a 6mm one, and that's because I'm using some red 28mm roll plugs. It suggested it on the back of the packet and it was perfect for me, so if in doubt have a look. But again, I'll leave a link to those below as well. So once I got to the depth I needed, I popped the roll plug in, and then after changing my drill bit to a screwdriver attachment and changing the setting on the screwdriver as well, I fixed it into place at the top. And then to make sure it was straight, I got a spirit level out, checked the bubble, and once it was right, I popped a pencil marking in the bottom hole. And then time to swap the attachment over again and drill a second hole. But it is much easier if you've got a second screwdriver. So once that was done, I popped in another screw and job was a good one. And then hung up my first one. But now I will definitely be adding some trailing lobelia just to give it more oomph. Now to make sure the opposite side was symmetrical, I just measured it with my tape measure and then marked on the opposite side of the wall of where my bracket needed to start. But when it came to matching the height of it to the other one, I just eyeballed it because it was roughly an inch into the brickwork. And I certainly wasn't going to get picky over a mil or two. So again, I marked where I needed to drill and repeated the whole process on this side. So there you go, that's 2 done and another 2 to go. Now it was time for the back garden, and we just felt like it needed something extra to make it look like we actually cared about how our garden looks. So again, I'm gauging whereabouts I want it, and I wanted it central of where this brickwork was, and I'm repeating the whole process of what I did on the front. So once that was out of the way, it was then time to decide of where I wanted the other one to go, because you can see there's a slope to this garage. And originally I wanted it the same height as the first one, but when I'd put it up, it just didn't feel like a good idea after all. So I decided instead to have it in line with my light. So I measured the width of this area, got the halfway point, and decided to position my bracket next to my light. And then after some more drilling, popping a couple of screws in, I went to hang my final basket up. But notice this was a particularly wonky one. Let's put that one to the back. It's a little bit misshaped. So the next job is to put some lobelia trailing plants in there, have a bit of a shifty around, just make it a bit more substantial. And I want to design some window boxes as well.